Hey everyone, looks like we're going live. And tonight I wanted to talk about Hapkido and answer any questions you have of me about Hapkido, about the Hapkido I've done. And we'll answer anything that, I can do with that. So hopefully we'll get a few people on here pretty quick and start asking some questions, interacting. If we get other Hapkido people on, I hope you'll comment about Hapkido too. So as you come on, let me see ya. Go ahead and say hi, comment, share. Let me know if you do Hapkido. Let me know any Hapkido questions. So that's what I'm here for tonight, is to talk about the Korean martial art and answer questions about it. Hey Mark, afternoon to you. Good to see you. I know you've done a little Hapkido because we've done it together. So I know that you've played. I saw Steve come on here. He does Aikido as well, and they're related. And we might as well talk a little bit. Ian says morning because he's down in Australia, combative instructor down there. So good to see you, Ian. See some other people coming on. Good to see you. Remember, if you have questions about Hapkido, you have questions about me and what I've done with Hapkido, my experience, my training, those are all fair game. I want to do whatever I can to talk about Hapkido and answer your questions tonight. For the small stick, cord or no, I like a cord on my Donbong. And if you look on YouTube, you'll see some videos of me and Grandmaster Jeff Booth. You want to see somebody that knows how to use a Donbong and a cord, he's the guy to go to. I mean, I know how to use one. He is far surpassed anybody I know with his special cord that he does. So I like having a cord. However, I train with an ass baton that doesn't have a cord too. So I go both ways, with and without. But for Hapkido and for some of the Hapkido techniques, I like a cord. Doesn't mean you can't get things done with an asp or something similar. Steven says thanks. Yeah, good shout out. Hey Marty, good to see you here. Glad we're getting some people. If I miss your comment, I will answer it later. I reply to all comments, but ask again if it's something you want me to go live and that I didn't have. Kim Hyun just joined. He's a special person because he is one of my instructors in Korea, and he was the one that helped me take my first Dawn test. He's the one that let me throw him around. So I'm going to say, to Kim Hyun, very good to see him on here. Awesome Hapkido, and him and my instructor Lee Jung-gyu were good friends and came up under Kwanjang Kim Young Jong, and those are the three that I have learned the most Hapkido from. Seeing some other people. Make sure you ask some questions. Say hi, ask some questions. I'll start talking a little bit about Hapkido. For those that don't know, Hapkido is a Korean martial art. It's not an ancient old art. I mean, it's actually fairly new. The founder, Dojinam Chae-young-sul, he died in 1986. So some of us on here, we were alive when he passed away. So my instructors in Korea, Kim Young-jong, he had trained and knew Dojinam Chae-young-sul. To what extent, I don't know. He wouldn't talk about it much, but he at least met him, knew him some kind. And so it's not an ancient old art. Chae-young-sul came back from Japan after World War II. In Japan, hey Michael, it's good to join you for at least a while. Good to have you here too, Michael. And he's another Hapkidoan from out east. But anyway, as I was saying, hey Dominique, good to see you. And again, I'll stop and say hi to people. And if you have questions, be sure to ask the questions. But as I was saying, Dojinam Chae-young-sul, he came back to Korea after World War II. Now, it is argued about what his actual relationship was with Takeda in Japan. Some people say he was more of a house servant because he was Korean. Some say he was more of an adopted son and learned more of Takeda's Aiki Jiu-Jitsu than anyone else. The truth is probably somewhere there in the middle. I don't know 100%. I read different things and I try to form my own opinions from the different things I read. But what's obvious is when he came back to Korea, he knew stuff. And he started teaching. Now, he didn't teach a lot of kicking, which Hapkido has a ton of kicking in it today, because the stuff he was learning in Japan was mainly the locks and the throws, which Hapkido's known for. And so it was some of his students that started training with him that started incorporating the kicking. And so now Hapkido is a complete art with a little bit of everything. Hey, good to see you, Jamar. Hey, Ray, good to see you. Ray is an old friend from Hapkido. We knew each other way before Facebook, and we've actually been on the mats together years ago. So good to see you here, Ray. So that's sort of the early part of Hapkido, and just a brief little history of Che Young-sul. And then his students started adding things, and especially the kicking. Nowadays, Hapkido is a complete martial art encompassing a wide spectrum of skills. And that's one of the reasons I wrote an article years ago, and it's been passed around the internet, saying Hapkido's not just an add-on. And that's one of the things that bugs me when I'll see some people say, oh, we do Hapkido too. And what they mean is they have borrowed a few techniques from Hapkido, and they do a few Hapkido joint locks added to what they're already doing. But it's not necessarily they do Hapkido too. Because to do Hapkido, you need to do it all. And what am I talking about when I say all? I'm talking about learning how to strike, learning how to kick, learning how to block. The Hoshinsul part will encompass escaping from any kind of grab that you're grabbed with, striking back, kicking back, joint locking back, throwing back. So, I mean, there's a ton of joint locks to learn. There's a ton of throws. And, you know, some of the people that they just say, oh, yeah, we do Hapkido too. I say, well, how many joint locks do you know? Well, our black belts know 10. I'm like, well, my white belts have to learn 12 just to get the yellow belt. You know, so I'm not bad-mouthing those other people. I just wish they would say, we incorporate some Hapkido techniques, not we do Hapkido too. Because if you're doing Hapkido, you're doing it all. And then you get into the weapons. You know, we already mentioned the Dan Bong, but then you have the longer staff, you have the cane, you have the rope, you have knife techniques. So there's a lot, and you get up and you got sword techniques, and you do some sword in Hapkido. So it's a complete martial art that encompasses a lot of things. Now, depending on who you train with, it will be different how and when you learn things. The curriculum that I teach is the curriculum that I came up through the ranks in. And it's right here. You know, it's right out of this book. This book has the stuff from First and Second Dan for the Korea Hapkido Federation. And my first and second Dan were from the Korea Hapkido Federation. And so I teach that same curriculum. And, you know, I use this book sometimes to help me remember the order. Because when you got 30 techniques at white belt and 26 at yellow and you keep going up, sometimes I forget which order to teach them in. And like I tell my students, the order doesn't matter. It just gives me a way to make sure I don't miss anything, and I teach everybody the same. Jamie says, the only person other than yourself who does Hapkido is a young lady in our community here in Utah. She's deaf and quite amazing. Hey, that's awesome, Jamie, that, you know, she's deaf and still out there teaching and doing Hapkido. So Hapkido's not as known. And I started teaching in Missoula because nobody else around here was doing what I do. And so my instructor said, teach. Teach, you'll get better. And that is so true. Because it's one thing to be able to do something. It's another to be able to break it down and explain it and help others do it. And try to help them do it better than I do it myself. And one of the things with my DVDs, and most of my DVDs are Hapkido based, you know, the Joint Lock Essentials, the Lock On series, the Hapkido Hoshinsul, the Hapkido Cane, those are all Hapkido based. And one of the things I'm very proud of is that people say that I actually teach. I'm not on there just demonstrating, I'm actually teaching. And if you get a training partner and you follow along and practice with the DVDs, you can actually improve and learn things. And here's a secret. If you already have a solid base from a live instructor, it's then easier to learn things from DVD and other resources. But even a beginner can start learning some fundamentals. And the way I try to teach is so anybody can learn those. And so if you want to learn more about Hapkido and you don't have an instructor close, check out my DVDs at Your Warrior's Edge. Go to YouTube first. Go to Your Warrior's Edge YouTube. Check out the stuff that I'm teaching in the YouTube videos. And if you like the way I teach and you like the kind of stuff I'm teaching, then go ahead and get the DVDs, because it's just more and more detailed of the similar kind of things of the Hapkido that I do. And not everybody's Hapkido is the same. So it does depend on where you learn. One difference, some Hapkido will have forms. The Hapkido that I do has forms. Not all Hapkido federations, organizations, instructors teach forms. We call them hyung, not pumse, as a lot of the Taekwondo will use pumse, which is a Korean word for forms. Hyung is also a word for forms, and that's what we use. And so we do 4 hyung in the Hapkido that I practice up through black belt. Not that many. The first one is fairly long, so it's taught over the first 3 belts. White belt, you learn a third. Yellow belt, you learn the next third. First green belt, you learn the end of that form. Kwanzaa Kim Young Jong used to say, Taekwondo, hyung, many, many, many. Hapkido, few. Do real good. Okay? And that's sort of the philosophy that I have. I believe forms have a purpose, and they can be an aid to your training to learn the art of Hapkido. And it is a martial art. I will be the first to admit there are things we do, there are things that I teach in class that are not going to be used in a real fight. They're not going to be used out in the parking lot if somebody attacks you. I still believe they have value in learning the art. And if you saw the video I did last week on being a martial artist, I think there is a big difference in learning how to fight and becoming a martial artist. I want to do both. I want to be able to defend myself, but I also like to practice the art, and I teach the art to those that want to learn it in my Hapkido classes. When I'm teaching something different, self-defense, an active shooter class, I'm not teaching the hyung and the different formal things that are part of the art. Okay. Forgot to mention earlier that in Hapkido we also learn to fall. That's a big part of learning Hapkido, because you can't learn joint locks and throws safely with your partner unless you've learned to fall. I see a bunch of people coming on. Make sure you say hi, ask your questions. Are there any specific questions we can discuss, a good teacher from not so good teacher? Here's what I like to say about choosing a school and a teacher, because it's very important that the teacher needs to be a good instructor for you to learn. Go try it out and see if it's someone that is respectful and that you have an environment that you want to learn in. You need the students and the instructor that are going to be an environment where you would feel comfortable learning. The way they practice, the way they train. I'm fairly informal. I don't believe in, I'm not big on titles and a lot of formality. I do open and close every class with the Korean language and with a little bit of formality. I do insist that we all respect each other's, but like I said, I'm not real big on titles and stuff where some people are. Okay? Some people will train a little harder than others with more contact and different things. So you need to find the school that's going to work for you. I would watch an instructor's body motion. Are they getting things done with minimal motion? And I always like to talk about your cone of power, which is right here in front of you. This is where we do Hapkido joint locks. I don't do a joint lock way out here. With my arms extended and his hand close to his body, he's strong, I'm weak. So I want to make sure that, if the instructor is he's off balancing the opponent and doing the locks and doing the throws with economy of motion where you're using your power and not straining. I mean, if you're doing throws, you should be using your legs if it's a throw that's picking up. If you're straining with your back and using all upper body and not using your legs, you're not doing it correctly. So I would look for some of those things from a not so good teacher. And then here's something that one of my American instructors, Shihan Dennis Dallas, told me years ago when I started teaching. He said, Alan, if you're going to just teach the physical stuff, you're missing out. You need to also be working on character development and the intellectual and, the embodiment of the art of martial arts. The being a good person, the being a person of character. So if you're not doing that, or the instructor's not doing that, and leading by that example, then it might not be a good instructor. Instructors having inappropriate comments in class, inappropriate things with female or male students or whoever of the other gender, or romantical kind of things, that's not a place in the class that I believe. So I'd want to be careful if there's some of that stuff going on. I've trained Hapkido with Grandmaster Moreland and have trained Taekwondo with Master Sean Higgins. I have moved to Shotokan in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, also trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Does Hapkido have, I'm missing the, does Hapkido have, and then I'm missing the rest of that comment. I can't see the rest of that long comment because it was so long, Gerald. I can say if you trained with Grandmaster Moreland, you got some great training. He does things a little different than me. His Hapkido is more almost Aikido-ish, I would call it. But wow, talk about a man that can move and an awesome instructor, because I've been able to train with him when I go to the Korean Martial Art Festival in Florida. So if you trained with him, you had some excellent instruction. A little bit different from what I do, but some awesome training. But I couldn't read the last bit of your comment. It got cut off. So if you want to repeat that, a combative element. Yes, Hapkido has a combative element. And there are techniques in Hapkido that are military techniques for breaking things and killing people. Hapkido has that. In Korea, I had a young man training with me. He was taking Hapkido because his goal in the military was to be in their special operations, their equivalent to a SEAL type team in training. And he needed the Hapkido base. And then they have the Tukon Muksul and some different things that are taught to special forces over there, which are a combination of Hapkido and other. But he wanted that instead of just the regular Taekwondo because of the military applications. So Grandmaster J.R. West, he actually, in some of his seminars, will have special classes on just military techniques. And some of those are specifically used to take people out. I mean, that's what they're for. They're there to break and kill people. A couple years ago, Calvin Longton and I did a session in the Korean Martial Art Festival. He was teaching it, but it was sensory removal. And it was based off of his Krav Maga and Hapkido background, and military background, because he has an extensive military background of taking out sentries. And it's all some of the same kind of similar techniques, body motions, and once you know the body and how it works and how to hurt it, then you can go either for pain compliance, for breaking something, or for taking a person out. So Hapkido does have that combative component if the person you're learning from it teaches it. And like I said, not everyone does. There are some Hapkido programs I've seen that are a little different from what I do. And so I really can't comment on all of them because I haven't seen them all. When someone came into your dojo with one black belt in Hapkido from a completely different organization, different style, where do you start? How do you start them? White belt, etc. It really depends on how close they are to my style. If it's very different and they don't know the same stuff that my white belts and yellow belts know, I want them to start over there. And I want them to learn that curriculum that I teach for my school. If they have prior training, they're going to pick it up really fast. And then they're going to test really quick. And that's okay. I'm not somebody that goes a certain time period for testing. I want people to test when they're ready. I got to go teach now my classes. See you soon. Good to see you, Mark. I'm glad you were here. Have a great class. I'd like to get over and do some more training with you one of these days, buddy. So have a great class. We'll catch you next time. Steven says, for sure, thank you. Get a lot of this. Yeah, I mean, And if I would expect, if I go to someone else's school and I don't know their lower rank stuff, I should start over and learn that to be in their system, in their school. That only makes sense. Now, yeah, if some instructors, okay, you're a black belt, I'm going to let you wear your black belt, but I want you to go up through the curriculum and learn it all, but I'll let you wear your black belt while you're doing it. And that's okay too. But you do want them to have that same base of knowledge that you're teaching if you're going to then promote them and help them progress further. So that's sort of thoughts on there. See a lot of people joining, some are leaving, they got to go do things. I'm glad that answered your question, Stephen. Please ask questions if you have more questions. You know, that's what I'm here for. Be anything about Hapkido. I want to stay away from talking about specific Hapkido people, unless it's somebody I know and trained with, and I'll comment good things. But I had some questions earlier on a specific Hapkido instructor out there. I answered privately because I didn't want to be talking about that out here. Thank you and agree completely. Good, Justin. I'm glad I helped you. Gerald, in my school we say belt only cover 2 inches of your butt. Yeah, a belt, in my opinion, shows that you have learned a body of knowledge under a certain instructor, and that instructor awards you that belt because you learned that particular body of knowledge. Now, it only means something if you have faith in your instructors. I mean, my rank and my black belts, they really shouldn't mean much to anybody but me, because I got them from my instructors. I know my instructors. I have a relationship with them. I'm going to do, in a martial art world, it seems dominated by MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What do you think makes Hapkido relevant for the future and uniquely valuable to the public? Okay. I think Hapkido is valuable for those that want to learn what it has to offer. I have nothing against MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not what I do, though. I think that they can actually help and support Hapkido, because one area of Hapkido that is probably the weakest is some of the groundwork. Because the philosophy is we don't want to be rolling around on the ground. And personally, in a real situation, I want to be off the ground as quick as I can if I go down there. So some of the stuff we learn in Hapkido from the ground isn't to roll around and submit. It's to get out and get back up and keep our opponent down. I think tradition has value, and sadly, some people are going away from that. But I think there's still going to be those people that want the tradition, and I think Hapkido has that to value. And I think when it comes to a real practical art, Hapkido has a lot of practical stuff in it. You know, my Hapkido cane DVD is full of practical things that you can do with a cane to defend yourself. Yeah, sure, there's some fancy stuff for demonstrations in there too. And Hapkido has both. And I think that's one thing about Hapkido. It has both. It has the art and the practical. And that I see as valuable. Robert says, I should be until a third trained with a couple of different teachers in different styles, but similar principles. I did move faster depending on the material and styles. Oh, and then I can't see the rest. It's cutting off. But yeah, if you train with different instructors, you're going to learn different things, and you may advance with one instructor because of what you learned previously. I have an individual right now, he started over with me as a white belt, but he has a lot of experience in different martial arts, and he's advancing very quickly. Great student to have, because he catches on like that, because he's had a background. Keep up the good work, Master Burrese. Don't call me Master Burrese. Call me Alan, Ray. You know better. A lot of my friends at some of the things like to joke and call me because they know I don't like the titles. I don't need the titles. And I'll never get on here saying, I am, I'm Alan. Call me Alan. But I appreciate it, Ray. It's always good seeing you. And Ray is Master Terry also. He has a higher rank, so good to see you on here. Mary just joined. Hi, Mary. Any other questions? And did I get to some of those? If I didn't answer them enough, repeat it, because they go by quick. So if I didn't answer it completely, let me know. Robert says amen to that. Good, Robert. I'm glad that answered, and we were able to talk about that. You know, a minute ago I was saying about my rank means something to me because my instructor means something to me. Awards mean something if they were given to you by something that means something. Some things, how they had to change to be deadly, it's not taught that way though. How do you work with kids? I don't do a lot of work with kids. In my Hapkido classes are adults only. When I do classes for kids at the YMCA, I'll do self-defense classes. I focus on anti-bully and anti-abduction, and they're taught specifically for those age groups. I've been asked to teach kids when I go down to Florida, and I just teach them age-appropriate things. I don't teach how to twist somebody's neck and break somebody's neck to kids. You know, so I teach age-appropriate things when I'm asked to teach children, but in my ongoing Hapkido class, I teach only adults. How does Hapkido differ from Taekwondo? First time I watched you live, great stuff. Thank you, Paul. Sharon, Taekwondo focuses more on kicking and striking, and if you're Olympic-style Taekwondo, you're focused on that competition. Hapkido, we're not focused on competing. And we have a lot more joint locks, throwing, and weapons work. And our kicking is anywhere from the ankle to the head. You know, some people don't think Hapkido kick much. No, Hapkido kick a lot. And we'll kick you anywhere from the ankle to the head, anywhere in between. Not for points, but to hurt you. We will hit you anywhere we can. We will grab a hold of your kicks and lock your legs and throw you down. We'll grab a hold of your arms and wrists and we'll lock your arms, wrist, arm, shoulders up to take you down. We'll grab you and throw you or sweep you down. So those are some of the difference about Hapkido, as well as the weapons. Learning how to use the short stick, the staff, the cane, the belt. You know, some different Hapkido weapons there. Would you say the wrist, oh, I missed that. Would you say, let me see if I can get it back. Would you say that wrist, elbow, shoulder are worth teaching in self-defense? Yes, Gerald. I think wrist locks, arm bars, shoulder locks are worth it in self-defense for some situations. Sometimes all you need to smash back, and you're going to be hitting or kicking low and elbowing, taking a guy out. Those are in Hapkido too. But some situations you will be able to use a lock, a throw. So it just depends. I've thrown people in real situations. In security work is where I've used more of my locks because I had to control people. And so there's different areas of violence that we want to cover. It's not always the big giant guy going to kill you. There are different, you know, it could be a domestic thing where you got to control somebody. Could be a situation where I'm working security and I have to control somebody. And that's where I've used the locks more. Elbows, strikes, kicks, those are going to be more in the all-out combat where you got to just take a guy's head off and put him down. I hope that answered that. Technique question, effectiveness of chin jab in a real self-defense situation. Ian, I personally think that chin jab is a tried and true technique. It's been way back to World War II and being used. Kelly McCann and some of these other guys that I follow, they're teaching it. I teach it. I have hit people with the open palm on the chin and knocked them down. And, you know, dazed, you know, they're down on their butt going, what happened? So I've hit people and it's worked. Okay, so I think it's an effective and a valuable technique to teach. Gerald says attacks. Dwayne just joined. Gerald said, yes, sir. Oops, I'm losing. Hey, Dwayne, good to see you. I'm trying to catch those comments. If I missed a question, please put it again and I'll try to answer. If I didn't answer well enough, ask me to clarify and I'll be glad to clarify. Hopefully I answered those last couple appropriately and sufficiently. If not, let me know and I'll try to expand more. Where were we? I guess before I started answering questions, I was mentioning about belts and awards. If they come from somebody you have a relationship with, they mean something. If they come from somebody you didn't really train with or you don't really have a relationship with, what do they mean? My belts, they come all from Lee Jung-gyu. who was under Kim Young-jong. So when I first started, he was teaching under Kim Young-jong and got my first couple belts. Then after he went out and had his own school, I got my 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They all come from the same person, the same instructor that I lived with that summer of 1997 when I went back to Korea, and I lived with him and trained with him every day, 6 days a week, 4 classes a day, once on Saturday, 4 classes Monday through Friday. So having a relationship like that with an instructor, that's why those belts mean something, because he awarded them to me. Real quick question, but it's security work. How effective do you think hand techniques are compared to close hand strikes? Open hand techniques are compared to close hand strikes. For security work, I don't want to punch and pound somebody. We want to take control of a person, and we're trying not to hurt them. So I try my best not to strike people. And hopefully I'm working with a team, and we go in, we take them down, we lock them up, we control them, we take them out. When I'm working event security, sometimes it's take them to the front door and kick them out. We don't care. Other times they're getting arrested and going to jail. And so I'm taking them up to police officers, and I'm handing it over to police officers to do the actual arrest and take them to jail. So I'm primarily, and I've taken a lot of guys out, and I've never had to hit people. I've always had to grab control. Okay, and I've taken them to the floor. We control them. Get some help. I've taken people out with arm bars. I've taken them out with wrist locks. I've taken them out with the chicken wing shoulder locks. So it just depends. Real fighting is more apt to, if my butt's on the line, that's where I'm going to hit or kick and hurt somebody and not worry so much about trying to lock them up and control them. But working security, we got to worry about lawsuits. We're there to try to keep people from getting hurt and broken. And so we got to be careful what we do. And I'm trying to lock people up and control them without injuring them. My award is proof I attain a level of experience. That's exactly what it is, Mark. And it only means whatever you have the relationship with the person that gave it to you means. And that's why I don't really think rank doesn't mean a whole lot. I let people know my rank because they want to know. And to people that don't know anything, it means something, but also issue with lawsuits with actual strikes, locks, control. Yeah, you can have lawsuits with anything. Somebody can sue you with anything. And that's why we try not to injure. Regarding the ranks, like I was saying, there's no equivalency across the board. So one person's first dawn does not equal another person's first dawn. One person's 4th or 5th doesn't equal another person's 4th or 5th. So it really doesn't matter. I respect those who earn the rank because they've achieved something, and as long as they have a faith in their instructor who gave them a rank, it means something. And that's really all that matters. Absolutely, I work in the same field, and oftentimes it's a matter of covering your backside. Thanks. Yeah, that's true. Ed Park used to say, "Let my ability be my belt." I agree. Because I don't wear my black belt when I'm working. And I don't tell people, "I'm a black belt, you better not resist me." No. It's like when something goes on, you go in and you have to deal with the situation. Belt doesn't matter. And I work with some really great guys. They're not martial artists. Some of them are, but not all of them. And we get the job done. That's what matters. And I'll tell you, size and strength help. Going in with bigger guys with some size, some strength, and then with a little bit of knowledge with that helps stop and control people. And I'll tell you, it's often easier to control smaller people than it is a huge person. Size and strength matter. So saw Chris join, Tony joined. Good to see you guys here. Appreciate it. Throw in any questions about Hapkido you got tonight. That's tonight's topic. Just talking about Hapkido, my experiences with it, what I do, what I teach, and trying to answer questions about the art. So throw in any other questions you have in there. I will say that most of the techniques on my restraint, control, and come along technique DVDs are based out of Hapkido. John says your locks hurt so bad. Thanks, John. John's trained with me, so that's what they're designed to do. They're designed to elicit pain. They're also designed to break things if you want to take them that far. And, we don't do that in training, but we realize that they're there and they can. So I'd like to see you coming back. John, missed you. You haven't been there for a little while. And I know you had some stuff with the move and all sorts of stuff with the family. Hope that gets worked out and we can see you back. Jamar and Tavis and those guys want to see you back too. One of them said they saw you at the supermarket the other day. So glad you're still doing around. You're doing well, but like to see you back. Any questions about Hapkido that I can answer for people about what I do, about what we did in Korea, about the Korean Martial Art Festival? In a street fight, everyone is a black belt, at least in trash talking. Better to stay quiet and use what you know to get the job done. I agree, Mark. And I'll tell you, if I can get the job done without going physical, I'd rather do that. Here's one of the best lessons that's on the Restraint, Control, and Come Along DVD. And I was working a Black Crowes concert that got canceled because of the rain. They hadn't canceled it yet, but I'm out there and I'm working with the, and trying to keep the crowd because they're wet, drunk, and mad, okay, because the concert's not going on. Not a good combination. Had a large Marine start making a bunch of noise, and the promoter guy, or one of the guys said, "Alan, can you go make sure nothing happens over there?" Yeah, great. Just send me over with this giant Marine. I knew he was a Marine Corps because of the tattoo on his arm. So I start walking over there to this guy, and he looks at me and says, "You don't have enough friends." Now, I had a choice right then and there. I could have puffed up my chest and said, "I don't need any friends." And by doing that, a physical altercation most likely would have went down. Who would have won? I don't know. Guy was big, been there, done that. It probably would have been a bad situation for both of us. But I had a different option. I stuck out my hand and I said, "You're my friend, aren't you, buddy? Thanks for your service. I was 82nd Airborne, but I got Marine buddies too." He shook my hand, his calmed right back down. We started talking. I told him, the only reason I'm working security here is I wanted to see the band too. It doesn't pay worth much. But I just don't want anybody hurt. Look, there's kids over here, there's ladies over there. I'm just trying to make sure nobody gets hurt. He's like, "That's cool, I understand, buddy." We talked a little bit, no more problems with him. And if something would have went down, he would have been an ally on my side. That is the best way to control crowds and best way to deal with people. If you have those interpersonal and communication skills, a lot of times you can talk situations that don't have to get physical. Not 100%. Sometimes we got to go physical, especially if a fight's already started and you got to go in and take people down and separate combatants and get them out of there. But if you can talk and communicate with people, that is one of the better skills and one of the most important lessons on that DVD set. I'd said, "I know. Will you be my friend?" Hey, exactly. And verbal judo. Exactly, Paul. And I've had verbal judo training. The verbal judo is right there on the shelf laying right there. I was looking at it the other day. So verbal judo is a great thing to learn. Love that story. I'm glad, Mary. I like it too, and that's why I put it in that DVD set, and I think it's as important or more important than all the physical locks and the takedowns and all that stuff that I teach, because if you can do that, sometimes you don't need the other. And then nobody's hurt, nothing is broken, no lawsuits. That's the ideal thing. Great book, by the way. Thanks, Paul. And, if you can do things, I hate the bouncers that want to just fight. It's like the old movie Roadhouse. Love the movie. If you didn't like it, you're missing out. I love Patrick Swayze in the Roadhouse. I'll admit it. I own the Blu-ray upstairs. But the be nice until it's time not to be nice, that is so true. And the best bouncers cut things off before they happen. That's getting a little off the Hapkido topic, but it's related. Because learning Hapkido we should be learning those other skills too. And we should be having a good heart and a good mind. Kim Hyun joined here earlier. I don't know if he's still watching, but he's one of my instructors in Korea. One of the times I was over in Korea, I went to a black belt test that Lee Jung-gyu and Kim Hyun were on the board. I wasn't testing, I just went to watch, and then we went out to dinner after that testing. But I remember in the car, and Kim Hyun saying, the most important thing for a Hapkidoan is to have a good heart and a good mind. And I think that's true. And I think anybody that's practicing Hapkido, anybody that's teaching Hapkido, we need to be actually teaching that too. That the most important thing is a good heart and a good mind. I hope Kim Hyun is still on here, but if he's not, if he had to leave, because he is watching from Korea. But that's a lesson that he said in that car ride one night on the way to dinner after that black belt test. I've never forgotten it, and I try to live it. I try to teach it. Any other Hapkido questions? Got a little bit away from it with the restraint and control stuff, but my restraint and control stuff is based with the Hapkido. So, and that's why I know some of that stuff works for real. I've done it. You know, so don't tell me Hapkido joint locks don't work. I've done them. They work. Any other questions? You know, I've been going for a while. I got a while longer before dinner and before I go teach tonight. So anything else? I see people on here, but I don't see questions going unless they got stuck. Nope, Paul's comment was the last one. Things to look for, Hapkido. Look for an instructor that's you respect and that you know you see the students and it's an environment that you want to learn from. You know, put Brian in a Eli just joined, and he's a former student until he lives in Japan now. But put Brian in a headlock. Okay, you know, I'll probably see Brian tonight because he's going to probably be there. So I'll do that just for you, Eli. So good seeing you. I hope things are going well. I actually thought of you, Eli, this weekend when I was watching the movie Silence with Liam Neeson and a few others, directed by Scorsese. It's about missionaries in Japan, many years ago, though, not current Japan, when they were persecuted. So it made me think about you and your work over there in Japan right now. Jay Cooper just joined. Jay, good to see you. Please ask any questions you have about Hapkido. Anything about Hapkido, about what I do, what I've done, something about the art that I can answer. That's what I'm here for tonight. And if you like Hapkido, if you want to know more and see some physical techniques, go to Your Warrior's Edge YouTube channel. A lot of different Hapkido techniques and tips on that channel. And if you like those, go to yourwarriorsedge.com and check out my DVDs. You can save $50 on the Lock On Joint Locking Essentials videos, and those are all Hapkido-based joint locks. If anyone has questions about joint locks, perhaps they should join one of your classes. I know my sensei work at. Yeah, Mark, I mean, people that are in Missoula, come down to Ridge Fitness and check us out on Tuesday, Thursday nights. Come and meet me at the Korean Martial Art Festival. That's one place I teach every spring down in Crestview, Florida. A bunch of good Hapkido, Taekwondo, other Korean stylists getting together for a great weekend of training and fellowship. If you want a seminar, contact me. I go out and do different seminars too, whether it's on the cane or joint locks, a combination cane and joint lock seminar. Love to go out and do seminars with folks too. I know you've trained in both, but how much difference are there between Hapkido and Kuk-sul? The only Kuk-sul that I know, Paul, are when I go to like events like the Korean Hapkido or the Korean Martial Art Festival, and I get to play a little bit with Kuk-sul people. So I don't know that much about Kuk-sul, and I really haven't trained in it other than a class here or there. So I'm really not the best person to comment because I really don't know that much about Kuk-sul, and I don't want to steer you wrong. So my training there is so minimal that I really can't answer that one. If there's any Kuk-sul people watching, go ahead and comment and please let us know. But again, my training is minuscule with just instructors and little sessions here or there. Anything else? Any other questions? History of Hapkido, Hapkido techniques, what I've done, where I've been, because, my Hapkido is straight out of Korea. I've had I had Shihan Dennis Dallas as one of my American instructors. I go to sessions with different people. I've been down to Grandmaster J.R. West event. I've been to the Korean Martial Art Festival a number of years. So I go to sessions with all these other different teachers. Gone down to California and trained with Bong Soo Han briefly before he passed away. So just little sessions here and there. But the bulk of what I teach and the bulk of what I do is learn in Korea, and my instructors there that I continue to go back and see. Hoping to be back there in about 6 months to see them. So I'm really looking forward to that next trip. And the bulk of it is right out of the Korea Hapkido Federation curriculum manual. This is the same curriculum that I still teach up through second Dan. Third Dan gets a little different. And I'm actually teaching somebody third Dan right now, and I've modified what I'm doing and sort of canonizing a specific curriculum for third and fourth Dan for those students that are there. But the first and second Dan pretty much used the Korea Hapkido Federation curriculum as it's set as I went up through the ranks for it. Anybody else have a question on Hapkido? If you don't have any more questions, I'll end it. But if you got questions, I can keep going. So let me know what your questions are. Okay? I know you're out there. What are your questions? Type them in. If not, please share these videos. Get this information out to different people. Share, comment, likes. Those all help these videos. When I see the bigger numbers, motivates me to keep doing them. I'm doing this whole month right now, go live every day in August, and this is part of that. So I'm going to continue to do them, sometimes about martial arts, sometimes about safety, self-defense, sometimes active shooter response topics. So I'm going to keep doing them. No more questions, so I'm going to sign off for tonight. I really appreciate everybody that was on here. Even if you're on here just for a little bit, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the questions. Keep them coming. I'll keep answering them. See you next time when I'm live. If there's a topic that you want me to cover in a live presentation this month, let me know and I'll cover it. Go to yourwarriorsedge.com. Check out the Hapkido videos there. Go to surviveanddefend.com. Check out the safety and self-defense stuff. Until next time, take care, stay safe. Hapki!